This is the Hello World podcast, where we talk about habits of success, habits of excellence, entrepreneurship, leadership, learning and development, and outlook that will help us succeed through life. This is Louis Banta, CEO and Chief Trainer of Learning Just Made Better, or LJMB. Today is episode number 10, where we'll talk about the fourth letter in hello, the letter L, on learning and development. Our guest for today will talk about how learning could win during this crisis, transitioning from on-site to online learning. And our guest is currently the Learning and Organization Development Lead at Amaysim Philippines, an Australian tech company. She has over 13 years of experience with specialization in the areas of HR innovation and transformation and learning and organizational development. She has helped a number of organizations in developing talent development strategies and building digital learning capabilities. She completed her master's in human resource management from the University of Newcastle in Australia as an Australia Awards Scholar. She's a former Philippine Society of Talent Development Board of Trustees and Chair for Research and Publication. And now, she's part of Oplan Hope as the Digital Learning Committee Chair. Our guest in episode 10, Marby Tabungar.
Hello, world! Hi, everyone! Hi, Louie! It's my
Hello,
pleasure to be here with you.
Marby.
And
It's our
hello,
privilege to have you here, and thank you for saying yes.
of
And you
course.
are at episode 10 of Hello World. And
Yeah, very exciting.
to our listeners, Marby and I are both part and in service of the Philippine Society of Talent and Development, or Talent Development. And we also had the chance to meet face to face right after her studies in Australia. And yes, she has been talking about her passion for digital and learning and technology about a year ago. And given this pandemic, this extended work from home, we now are very convinced that this is no longer the wave of the future, but this is a current requirement in this new normal. So Marby will be our resource person. We've also been seeing your posts, Marby, in LinkedIn, and you've been very active in promoting the importance of digital learning in a lot of organizations. And recently, I know that you've also guested in a PSTD gathering.
Yes.
So, how important are the following factors in the success of an organization's digital learning transformation? We can mention three factors. There would be leaders and decision makers. There's also people in culture, and there's also tools and
Yeah, I think,
processes.
Louie, they're all very important, right? Because it's not just about the technology itself, but it's an entire gamut of things to be
Mhm.
able to implement digital learning successfully, right? But uh, in my experience, having gone through several implementation projects for digital learning, I could say that there are actually 6 elements. And the thing and just earlier fall
Go
under
ahead.
those 6 important elements, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there's, I think the most important, Louis, if
Mm-hmm.
you will ask me, is mindset,
Mm-hmm.
right? A lot of practitioners reach out to me no, via Facebook, via LinkedIn, and people would always ask about where do we start? What LMS do we get? Parang
Mm-hmm.
nakadiretso sa technology.
Mm-hmm.
But really, the most important thing for me when you're planning to, implement digital learning is really the mindset,
Mm-hmm.
of everyone in the organization, and most importantly, the mindset of your leaders. The
Mm-hmm.
leaders who will make the decisions. Sila yung mag-approve di ba, Louie?
Mm-hmm.
Sila yung mag-approve ng budget. Therefore, the mindset of the leaders is really,
Mm-hmm.
really the key and
Mm-hmm.
implementing it, and they have to be able to support that entire initiative end to end,
Mm-hmm. Mhm.
not just in signing the forms, the
Mhm.
contracts, etc., but they have to be present,
Mhm.
in the entire process of implementing the digital learning.
And
Of course,
if I may, Marby, if I may, you mentioned the mindset, even starting at the level of decision makers. Does that
yes,
also explain why in the Philippines there's not much effort done in the past or pre-COVID on learning and technology? And I'm sure that with your exposure in global companies, most of them have it, but here locally,
yes.
it's you don't see it often. Do you see a relationship with that?
Yes, definitely, Louis. Yeah, like what you mentioned, usually if it's a multinational organization, big organization,
Mm-hmm.
well accepted yung concept ng digital learning, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
there's, cost efficiency that's aligned to it.
Mm-hmm.
However, in the Philippines, I think it's also driven by our culture.
Mm-hmm.
Diba? If we may relate it, Louis, to Hofstede's cultural
Yes.
dimensions, diba?
Yeah.
The
Mm-hmm.
time or long-term orientation, right? Philippines
Mm-hmm.
is low
Mm-hmm.
in terms of long-term orientation, which essentially means na we kind of think about now, what's
Mm-hmm.
current. We
Mm-hmm.
kind of um hindi naman sa hindi iniisip, no? But
Mm-hmm.
we have less focus on what's gonna
Okay.
happen in the future.
Okay.
Therefore, if we apply it to the context of digital learning,
Mm-hmm.
classroom training has been working,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's been working for all of
Mm-hmm.
us. And
Mm-hmm.
since we have that mentality, we have that mindset na it's working naman now, right?
Mm-hmm.
Why do we have to change? Why do we have to have significant investments in technology if classroom
Mm-hmm.
training is working?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Medyo meron tayong mindset na why fix something that's ain't
Mm-hmm.
broken,
And
right?
I like it that you raised the often dimensions because you mentioned long term. Totoo nga, ano, because in a culture where you have short term orientation, you will protect traditional stuff, you'll protect
Yes.
what works now, and you'll protect practices. And in learning and development, I'm guilty of that. Yes, yes, you know this. For 15 years, my business has thrived on in-person learning. I don't need it because the clients naman don't ask for it. And indeed, if companies in the Philippines don't ask for it, the vendors just also follow suit.
Yeah, and it's good that you realize that, Louis, because other leaders, I think, do not realize it just yet. In fact, I have a
Mm-hmm.
friend, Louis. He
Mm-hmm.
works for, I'm not gonna mention the company, but
Yes.
a local company, no, and
Mm-hmm.
he's asking for advice. He's a young HR professional as well.
Mm-hmm.
And he's been asking me, Marby, saan ba kami mag-start? Ano ba yung
Mm-hmm.
kailangan naming
Mm-hmm.
i-prepare? We're very
Mm-hmm.
ready and we're very excited for digital learning. Kaya lang yung
Mm-hmm.
boss namin parang hindi pa siya convinced na
Okay.
magdi-digital learning kami. And
Mm-hmm.
it's difficult if you're the practitioner, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you're very keen to implement that in your organization and your
Oh.
leaders are not,
Mm-hmm.
do not have that buy-in.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So
So
mindset is really very
So,
important.
given that example, it's the middle manager or it's the frontline L&D person who's reaching out to you. But
Yes.
then the decision maker, maybe an HR or L&D, has not bought into the digitalization. Was that the situation?
For that specific case, yes.
Mm-hmm.
And if you
Okay.
if you think about it, yung mga nagsa-sign up din sa mga webinars ng PSTD are the younger, younger HR professionals talaga
Mm-hmm.
natin. But,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not
Mm-hmm.
generalizing. Of course, there
Yes.
are, oo, marami
Mm-hmm.
rin naman tayong mga future thinkers na leaders,
Mm-hmm.
right? In the
Mm-hmm.
traditional companies. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But you're correct. Mindset, very important, not just of the team members involved within the training
Mm-hmm.
team, but most especially the
Mm-hmm.
leaders, the
Mm-hmm.
managers, right, who would
Mm-hmm.
support all throughout. Of course,
Mm-hmm.
there's also the culture within the organization, Louis. Like, for
Yeah.
example, in Amaysim, since we're a tech company, we're very agile, right? So that means
Mm-hmm.
for us to be able to be agile, kailangan yung learning namin mabilis din, right? So,
Correct.
because things happen, so quickly because, again, we're a tech company, a
Mm-hmm.
lot of things
Mm-hmm.
change very frequently. And for us to be able to
Mm-hmm.
catch up with those changes, kailangan equipped, trained yung mga staff namin, right? But
Mm-hmm.
if the organization is not very fast paced in terms of its environment, baka they would also
Mm-hmm.
resist. right? So
Okay.
the culture within would also be a factor in implementing digital
Mm-hmm.
learning. Um,
Mm-hmm.
lalo na yung mga may generation gap tayo, Louie, no? In
Correct.
the
Correct.
company. Yung
Correct.
mga medyo seasoned
Mm-hmm.
employees natin, baka they
Mm-hmm.
still prefer the traditional way of learning,
Yes.
whereas the younger ones would probably opt to more mobile,
Mm-hmm.
available anywhere, anytime type of learning.
Mm-hmm. But Marby, even if the seasoned, I like how you put it, the seasoned or veteran employees, they
Mm.
still prefer traditional types. But given our scenario now, do they have any other choice or alternative? Especially given this pandemic or social distancing will now be the norm for X number of months. Is there still, tama ba yung question ko, will there still be hope for traditional classroom training given this extended pandemic?
Yeah. You know what, Louis? I truly believe that classroom training will never go away, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's gonna be there, I guess, forever,
Okay.
right? But um, now, because we're in this kind of situation where we can't
Mm-hmm.
do that, obviously,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So the option really right now is to make digital learning possible for all of
Okay.
us.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I guess that's
And
a mindset for L&D practitioners, no? Paano
mhm.
natin
So
gagawin?
you talk about mindset and culture. If you can prescribe the mindset, if in one sentence you can prescribe and you even use it as a criteria, no? When somebody
Yeah.
comes to you and asks for help, ganito ba ang mindset ng managers nyo at ng tao nyo? What is that sentence, powerful sentence that captures the right mindset?
I think for me, if I will capture it in one sentence,
Mm-hmm.
be adaptable or
Okay.
be agile,
Okay.
right?
Okay.
Because a lot of things are happening, very
Mm-hmm.
frequently. Not just
Mm-hmm.
in our company, kahit ngayon, ECQ, GCQ,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
pabago-bago, right? So we have to
Okay.
be able to adjust very quickly. We have to be adaptable. We have to be
Mm-hmm.
agile.
Okay. You shared earlier that one of the frequent questions or one of the questions asked to you early on is LMS na. Okay?
Yes.
What's wrong with that question? Or what's missing in that question?
Right. Okay. I'm super glad that you asked me that, Louie. Kasi
Mm-hmm.
nga that's the number one question that is asked of me, by
Mm-hmm.
many practitioners. Now,
Yes.
I want to challenge it because if you ask someone what's the best LMS, yung best
Mm-hmm.
kasi, 'di ba? When we say
Mm-hmm.
best, quote unquote best, it's
Yes.
subjective. It may be best for me
Mm-hmm.
or but not be best for Louis Banta,
Okay.
right? So I wanna whenever I get asked that question, I always ask the people who asked me
Mm-hmm.
about what do you need, right? You always have to
Mm-hmm.
go back to your business strategy. And can I just
Okay.
share our story as a
Please,
company, Lou?
please. Go ahead.
Kasi recently we implemented our own LMS, right? But
Mm-hmm.
it wasn't just about looking for the best LMS out there, right? Because ang dami, Louie, when
Mm-hmm.
you just search for the best LMS platforms, there's
Mm-hmm.
tons of
Correct.
lists, right? And
Mm-hmm.
you will be
Mm-hmm.
very overwhelmed when you reach out to different vendors, LMS
Mm-hmm.
vendors. They will really showcase the best features of their LMS. But
Mm-hmm.
you have to, before you go out there in the market. I would ask the L&D leaders to really stop first and think
Mm-hmm.
about how the technology would support their business strategy, right? So
Okay.
let me probably share how we did it for Amaysim. So
Mm-hmm.
like what Louis shared, Amaysim is a tech company, right? We operate in the telco and energy sectors in Australia. So think about para kami Louie Globe or Smart and Energy and
Yes.
Meralco,
Yes.
pero wala
Mm-hmm.
kaming infrastructure. We
Mm-hmm.
don't have
Mm-hmm.
towers, right? All
Okay.
our products, services are delivered and managed via our technology, right? And if you are in the tech space, a lot of things happen so quickly because you keep on listening to your customers kasi yun
Mm-hmm.
yung part ng business, and also the
Yes.
regulations. in
Mhm.
the telco and energy sectors in Australia, mabilis rin nag-change, maraming
Mhm.
changes. So,
Mhm.
but because we have our goal of growing the business, we've set our targets, we know that
Mhm.
our goal is to grow the business, we knew that for us to be able to achieve that, we need to equip our people.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
what we did was we formulated our talent development framework, right? We identified
Okay.
the most important elements, in developing our people. So it has the executive commitment and support. Kasi number one
Mhm.
yun, leaders talaga namin, talagang champions of continuous learning and development. Our competency models. In fact, Louis, ang country manager namin would even attend yung mga competency orientations namin.
Okay.
So
Okay.
our people really feel now we are really investing on their development. And
Physically, no? Physically, is
yes,
visible and is committed to show up. Mhm.
correct. And he would even, share his personal stories of growth and development. And that has
Mhm.
huge impact on your people, right? If you
Mhm.
see
Mhm.
that your leaders are really invested on your development.
Mhm.
And then one of the pillars in the talent development framework is technology. So as you
Mhm.
see, technology is not standalone, right? It
Okay.
has to be embedded in bigger strategy. It has to be embedded in your talent development framework so that
Mhm.
you would be able to select the right LMS for you. Because when we
Mhm.
did our search for the right LMS for us, it's not
Mhm.
necessarily the number one LMS in the market, right?
Okay.
We found the LMS that suits our needs, an
Mhm.
LMS that could manage our processes according
Mhm.
to our talent development ecosystem.
Mhm.
Um, we have competency models, so we had to look for an LMS na kayang mag-create ng courses and programs that's competency-based, could create learning paths, etc.
Okay.
It wasn't necessarily the best, Louis. We've seen
Mhm.
other vendors na talagang meron pang feature na pwede na mag-virtual reality,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
There's a lot of really amazing features of different LMSs now. But the question there is that what you need? Is that
Mhm.
going to propel your business to your goal, right?
Mhm.
So for
And
for our company, that's how we did it. And
mhm.
I am hoping that, other L&D leaders would do the same thing. Before you go out in
Mhm.
the market, rethink your strategy. Or
Okay.
revisit your strategy.
Key takeaway is when you think of learning technology or digital learning, don't just get fixated, don't get focused on that technology. Tama?
Exactly.
It's
Tama yon,
learning
Louie.
technology. Pero ang ganda ng sinasabi ni Marby because she mentioned three things there: mindset, culture, and a talent development framework before you even shop for the right LMS. Of course, Marby, if you choose the wrong LMS, no, if you choose a poorly designed LMS, it will also not make it work. No? But before that, mindset, and mindset's highly related to culture, and then a talent development framework. Yep. I've
That's correct.
Of course, we've done talent development frameworks before when it was not yet digital. How different is a talent development framework pre-digital learning days to the talent development framework that you're talking about, digital space?
Yes, I would suppose it's different in a sense that the way you manage your processes before, right? The way you manage your processes before would be very
Mm-hmm.
manual. For
Okay.
example, how you do course enrollments, how you track
Mm-hmm.
completion, baka manual pa
Mm-hmm.
yan, Excel, no, Louis?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But now, if you have a technology within your talent development framework, map mo how your other elements in talent development would be managed via the LMS. For example, we have our competency model. We create the
Mm-hmm.
courses based on those competencies. Now, ngayon, pag kinreate namin yung courses na yon dun sa LMS
Mm-hmm.
namin, anchored na rin siya, aligned na rin siya dun sa competency na yon. Now,
Mm-hmm.
as the L&D team, we could now track anong competencies yung nade-develop natin, right? Versus
Mm-hmm.
before, I'm not sure how it's being managed by other organizations, right? Yun nga eh.
Mm-hmm.
Dito napapasok din yung how do we monitor and evaluate, you know?
Yes.
effectiveness of our training. Noon, baka we
Yes.
weren't able to do so because ang hirap nun gawin manually or,
Mm-hmm.
right? But now if you have
Mm-hmm.
a system, it's easier to
Mm-hmm.
do that because you could track everything in one place.
Okay. And if there's a fourth word that you also introduced, is what are your needs before you think of the system, identify your needs, because it's very easy to match the
Correct.
platform with the needs. Now, this is a beginner question for digital learning. Ano ba yung klase ng needs, Marby? For example, could you be able to group what are the basic needs, and therefore this is the LMS that they need? What is a middle level need, and what is an advanced need? Just to help those practitioners out there or professionals, basic lang pala yung kailangan namin. O we are in the intermediate level. O we need an advanced type of LMS because our needs are also advanced. Would you be able to, is it possible to group them together like that?
I'll
The
try.
needs?
I'll try,
Mm-hmm.
Louie. Oo.
Go ahead.
Siguro the first thing that you need to you have to, I guess, think about what do you need to automate. I think yun yung first thing eh. Ano ba yung kailangan mong i-automate? Is it training delivery? Or is it training management? Or training analytics or learning analytics, right? I guess kung first, if you're at the basic level, which is you just want to track training delivery or deliver training
Okay.
delivery. Pwede na
Okay.
tayo dun sa mga Moodle. I'm not sure if
Oh,
you're familiar, Louie. Oh. So, meron kasing Moodle which is already a built learning management system. Ito-tweak nyo na
mm-hmm.
lang. You could already
Mm-hmm.
use it. Although that's very basic. So, if
Mm-hmm.
ang goal lang natin is to, for example, meron na tayo mga PowerPoint materials, convert na lang natin siya to videos, and we
Mm-hmm.
don't want to spend a lot of money on
Mm-hmm.
an LMS, yung mga
Mm-hmm.
off-the-shelf LMS, meaning yung nasa market, then I think we
Yes.
could opt to, go with Moodle.
Okay.
Find na lang tayo ng mga web developers who could customize it, make it
Mm-hmm.
look like your brand. Para hindi naman
Mm-hmm.
mukhang plain website, no?
Yes. Yes.
Yes. Oo. So, but if you are looking for more sophistication, kasi you need to, alam mo, may compliance na, kailangan na
Mm-hmm.
matrack mo siya per manager,
Mm-hmm.
kailangan na matrack mo yung completion kasi you will be reporting it. Then that's where I suggest that you go for more off-the-shelf
Mm-hmm.
platforms. Yun na,
Okay.
marami naman dyan. I don't wanna mention any, Louie, no? Kasi I'm not
Yes. Yes.
promoting any. Lagi
Correct.
rin
Correct.
ganyan tinatanong sa akin, Marby, ano yung best LMS? Ang hirap nang sagutin for me kasi yun nga,
And they
if
can
it's
check it
this,
out in Google, di ba? I'm sure that
exactly, oh.
they can have comparisons of this and they can compare features. But yes, of course, to our listeners in this learning episode, we are not after promoting a specific
Yes,
LMS, but
exactly.
the thinking, the
Right.
rationale behind the choice, and of course, thinking and planning. Take a look at that. Marby, honestly, it's also new to me. You know that I've been so immersed in delivery, in person, on site delivery. I love it. My clients love it.
Yeah.
We are just a few meters away or feet away. We enjoy the activities, the team building activities, physical. But so it's really a key takeaway for me that the question that L&D professionals need to answer now is which of the ADI do you want to automate? Oo
Right.
nga
Yeah, I
naman,
think
ano?
that's a good way to put it, Louie. Oo.
Diba?
Alin
Which
yung
of the
gusto?
ADI? Delivery. Well, we've seen it before. Matagal na naman kasi ang e-learning, di ba? E-learning has been
Yes.
here in the Philippines for, I believe, 20, 15 years, no? Delivery. Others can also be automated that needs analysis, design, and
Ah,
evaluation. This is a very novice, this is a beginner's question,
yeah.
Marby. And I may not be updated with the technology out there. Which of these ADI, parts in ADI, could already be automated, digitalized by LMS that are out there, aside
I
from
don't,
delivery?
yeah, I don't think analysis, Louis, or
Ah,
design is something that you could automate kasi, I don't know, baka
okay.
I could be wrong as well, no? Baka mamaya
Okay.
may AI na dyan.
Okay.
But for now, even if, like in my experience going, implementing digital learning, lahat ng analysis, lahat ng thinking, data review, etc., it still has to be done manually. Kasi
Okay.
multiple validation points ka dyan, right? And then
Yes, yes.
even the design, kasi you'd have to, identify the learning objectives based on your analysis. So I don't know any LMS that
Okay.
could do that automatically. So doon na lang siya talaga sa delivery, right? Sa delivery. Even the develop doon na lang siya sa implementation. Even the development part, Louis, kasi you have to do it manually as well. You'd have to use different tools there. For example, Captivate or Articulate, which is which are authoring tools to be able to create contents, ganyan. So develop implementation probably, and evaluation probably would can be automated within an LMS. Kasi the assessments, the training surveys, diba dati, Louis, pinapamigay natin ang training survey.
Manual yun. Manual mo kino-compute yun,
Manual.
di ba? Excel mo yun.
Exactly, ni-Excel mo yun. Naranasan ko pa yun nung bago akong trainer, no? We track it, no? Even the comments, participant comments, would type it, just so we could review. Now we don't have to do it. We generate a monthly report, even the trend. So we'd see some opportunities namin as a training team. Even the Louis, even the generation of certificates, diba? Other organizations would manually. I remember that, no? Paprint namin sa ano ba, parchment paper.
Parchment.
Tapos, yung magsisila ko, tapos part of my task yun as a trainer, pinapress ko yung seal. And then we give it out. We go to the operations floor, hand it out to people. Oh my gosh, how many hours of my time were, I don't want to say wasted, no, Louis, pero we're used in doing those activities na now.
Because there's no other way to do it. No?
Exactly. Now, if you have an LMS, you just set the template there with the signature of everyone who need to sign. And then every time the person has completed the training, automatic, they have it in their profile, right? You can even issue badges. Diba uso ngayon yung gamify mo, no? Yan, yung course mo mas magiging interactive kasi you could gamify the program. Every time they complete something, they could get or earn points or badges. Yeah, so those are the things. I think it also makes the learning fun for our learners, right?
And to our listeners in this episode, you can really hear a lot of takeaways from what Marby is saying here, the end-to-end ADI. Ang takeaway ko dito, Marby, is I will look at the ADI process and look at the subtasks in each. Analysis, you may not be able to automate all of that, but there can be activities in analysis, activities in design, and evaluation that you can automate. Okay?
Correct.
Let's jump to the advice part or to the tips with our remaining time. What you mentioned, mindset and culture, we can lump that as one. What else? Processes or the framework. What top 3 to 5 additional pieces of advice or tips would you be able to give to L&D folks who are out there who may want to do it the right way, digitalize and implement learning technology the right way, aside from not jumping to LMS, aside from starting with a talent development framework? Anything else that is based on your experience or the usual challenges that you encounter?
Right. Yeah. I think I could mention about 5 things. And the first one I already emphasized earlier, build it from your strategy, from your business strategy, which we talked about kanina, no? The second one that I would give, Louis, to our listeners is you need to assign a project manager who would really oversee all the activities in the entire implementation. And even when you create a new course, so for example, you have a new course, you created data privacy, right? Kasi, diba, medyo important yung data privacy right now. Let's say you need to create a data privacy course. Assign a project manager, right? So that all the key tasks, all the key deliverables and outcomes when
Mhm.
launching a new course. Medyo marami kasi yun eh, from which is similar to
Yes.
Adi naman, you analyze, pero may
Mhm.
mga additional steps like you need to do user experience testing, you need to do
Mhm.
course review. So,
Mhm.
and there's a lot of team members within a course creation that should be involved. So,
Mhm.
assign a project manager. Okay,
Mhm.
that's I guess my other tip for you.
What's
And
who's the best project manager, Marby? Should it be an L&D professional? Should it be an IT person, or should it be? Does it matter what the function is, but a really good PM who really knows the tools and the processes in project management? Who's the best
yeah,
bet for this?
good question, Louis. In my experience, it should still be the an L&D person.
Ah, okay,
Should
okay.
still be an L&D person. However, it's a good that you
Mm-hmm.
pointed that out. Someone who's very knowledgeable about the different systems that's being used within the organization. So if you have a junior
Okay.
L&D specialist, baka hindi pa siya yung dapat mag-handle ng project, right? Especially if it's, you're launching.
Mm-hmm.
Someone who also has a relationship. So if you
Mm-hmm.
think about it, Louis, project management skills din kailangan talaga ng L&D practitioners ngayon.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So should
Mm-hmm.
still
Oo
be
nga. Mm-hmm.
an L&D person
Okay.
who
Okay.
would oversee all the entire activities. And siguro just for the benefit of our listeners then, Louis,
Mm-hmm.
because in my experience implementing digital learning, I've noted down some milestones. So baka gusto nilang mag-notes to yung
Yan.
milestones for
Okay.
implementation. Ito, I'll give it to our learners. So,
Listen to these milestones from
yes,
Marby.
correct. So if you're
Marby's
creating
milestones. So go ahead.
more beast milestones. So if you are implementing, no, if you're implementing, ito na yung parang checklist mo. Of course,
Okay.
the tasks, tools, etc., the people who will be involved will differ per
Mm-hmm.
organization. But these are the milestones. Meron akong 9. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So first milestone is there should be an LMS training for the training team and the
Mm-hmm.
administrators. Okay.
Okay.
So si vendor naman magpo-provide ng training na yan.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, they have a set course naman who where they will, train you on the different features, different
Mm-hmm.
capabilities of the platform. So LMS
Mm-hmm.
training, not
Mm-hmm.
just for the training team but the administrators. The administrators, Louis, it could be the IT team depending
Mm-hmm.
again on the company, kasi if the IT team is the one who's responsible for creating user accounts,
Mm-hmm.
right, so it should be managed by IT, so they have to be trained as well.
Okay.
Okay, second one is you need to map your L&D processes. Map your L&D processes because it's gonna
Mm-hmm.
change
Mm-hmm.
absolutely. Right? Kung
Mm-hmm.
dati, nagpapa-sign up kayo, nagpo-post kayo ng bullet ng paper to sign up for courses, how does it look like now? Is it via the platform? Di
Mm-hmm.
ba dati? O sinong gusto
Oh,
ko
I
attend ng
remember that.
training?
Di ba, you route a memo, di ba? You route a memo
Yes.
and then
Oh,
people
sign
sign
up.
up and then send it back,
Exactly.
no? Mm-hmm.
Correct, correct. So paano na siya ngayon? You have to map your processes. And
Mm-hmm.
notice na I mentioned milestone 2 as mapping of processes before
Mm-hmm.
LMS training kasi you need to understand the processes within the LMS para
Yes.
ma-map mo siya ng maayos. Okay?
Okay. Okay.
Different processes like yun nga, course enrollments, paano yung
Mm-hmm.
pag-structure nun sa organization,
Mm-hmm.
yung organizational structure kasi kailangan ma-map nyo rin siya ng maayos in the system so that the
Mm-hmm.
leaders, for example, could enroll their team members in a certain course. Kasi you could
Mm-hmm.
do that in
Mm-hmm.
an LMS. Eh. So map processes. Third,
Mm-hmm.
you have to configure your LMS. Ano bang configuration niyan? Ganito ba dapat yung itsura niya? Lalabas ba
Mm-hmm.
dapat calendar view o list view? So those are
Okay.
things na kailangan, yung mga courses, for example, gusto mo ba may images? May gusto
Mm-hmm.
mo ba puro list lang? Right?
All
So
of these features are available in the LMS.
yes.
Okay.
Usually they are available. Okay? Usually they
Mm-hmm.
are available. I haven't seen naman LMSs that don't have that feature.
Okay.
So you could
Okay.
do that, all the
Okay.
configuration. Um,
Okay.
when a course is completed, ano bang
Mm-hmm.
magiging action? Do they get an automated email? So again, you have to configure it. And that's why, well, you'll be able to pick that up once you go through
Mm-hmm.
training, LMS training.
Okay.
We pick
That's
up
why
your
LMS training is number one, no?
yes, oo.
So the
Mm.
process will follow the LMS kasi you're practically working within the capabilities of the LMS.
Correct, correct. Para mong
Okay.
i-re-engineer yung process mo eh. 'Di ba
Okay.
meron kang
Okay.
processes before that have been working,
Mm-mm.
pero now na may
Mm-mm.
LMS ka na, it will change. So you need to
Okay.
know the system first para
Okay.
ma-map mo siya ng maayos.
All right. Mm-hmm.
Then
Okay.
you can
Okay.
configure the system and then you do content migration. Ito na yung mga usual question dyan
That's
sa
the
akin,
fourth one.
Louie.
That's the fourth one.
Yes.
Content migration. Okay.
Yes, LMS training, L&D
Mm-hmm.
process mapping, LMS
Mm-hmm.
configuration, fourth is
Mm-hmm.
content migration. Marby,
Mm-hmm.
how do
Mm-hmm.
we migrate our contents? Marami kaming PowerPoint.
Mm-hmm.
How do we create that into e-learning? Okay?
Mm-hmm.
So, ang gusto ba natin i-transfer lang para it's available there? Or do we
Mm-hmm.
wanna make it as a self-paced content? Yun yung, I guess, questions doon, Louie. If you just
Mm-hmm.
wanna make it available in the LMS, go ahead. Usually, LMSs could accommodate PowerPoint documents. So,
Mm-hmm.
upload lang tayo Microsoft
Mm-hmm.
Word, Microsoft
Mm-hmm.
PowerPoint. That is, if we want to just, save all of the materials there. Diba?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
But if you want it to be a self-paced course,
Mm-hmm.
no? Yung kaya kong matuto just by going through the course itself on my own, you have to
Mm-hmm.
redesign the content. Hindi siya pwedeng, oh yan, sige, lagay nyo na ulit, lagay na natin dyan.
Okay.
O yan, meron na tayong courses. Because it's different when you design courses for a face-to-face class versus
Okay.
designing for an e-learning class.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Siguro, one good example is dati when we run leadership development programs, for example, yung situational leadership, right? You'd
Mm-hmm.
identify yung development level ng team members. If it were a classroom, pwede kang umikot, right? To take a look at if they're plotting them appropriately dun sa
Yes.
box. But
Yes.
in an e-learning version, paano mo gagawin yun?
Mm-hmm.
Right? How do you do it? How do you check it? So when
Mm-hmm.
you put it
Mm-hmm.
in a discussion board, everyone will see it. So you need to probably just create forms and have them
Mm-hmm.
submit it. So mag-iiba yung design niya.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So if you
Wow.
are, oo, maraming mag-iiba, Louis. So if you want to convert your contents, you have to redesign it. Hindi siya mag-work na copy and paste. You
Mm-hmm.
have to
So,
redesign the
so
entire
Marvin,
course.
the again the beginner's question here.
Mm-hmm.
If you upload all the content there, that's the other option. The intention is for people to just access it and do anything that they want from it.
Yeah, just maybe read
Okay.
it, but don't expect
Okay.
that learning gonna happen there. If it's
Okay.
designed for a face-to-face class, pwede siguro,
Okay.
just additional information.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
And if I'm not mistaken, content migration could be the most tedious or most challenging part of your 9 milestones. Sige, you can I'll
Balikan
figure that out
natin.
later. O balikan natin while you're going through the 9, I'll figure it
Correct.
out. Sige. Okay.
Yeah, it's
And
okay, Louis.
validate it please. Okay.
Yeah. I guess depending on your level, right? Depending on
Mm-hmm.
your level, you'd find out kung ano yung tedious dito. Anyway,
Okay.
so that's 4. 5 is course testing. Okay? So when you create a
Mm-hmm.
new course, for example,
Mm-hmm.
na-redesign mo na, no? Dati meron kang leadership development course, na migrate nyo na to an online course. Now you have to
Mm-hmm.
test it. Hindi siya kasi
Okay.
pagkagawa working everything fine na.
Mm-hmm.
You have
Mm-hmm.
to do a course testing where you'd invite people who will review
Mm-hmm.
the course,
Mm-hmm.
who would represent the target learner. So if it's a
Mm-hmm.
leadership program, invite a couple of leaders
Mm-hmm.
who are supposed to go through that course, give feedback, you know.
Okay.
Um, you could also apply the element of design thinking here, yung empathy, right? You try
Ah.
to seek as many feedback as you can so that
Mm-hmm.
before your go live, you have a course that's, working, that has
Mm-hmm.
been tested, that has been improved from
Mm-hmm.
its original version. So
Mm-hmm.
that's fifth. 6. So ano pa tayo ha? Hindi pa tayo nag-go live, right? Implementation pa lang to.
Correct.
Okay?
Correct.
So course testing, and then you do an employee orientation. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Employees
Mm-hmm.
muna. Okay? Employees.
Mm-hmm.
Kasi the next one is leaders orientation.
Okay.
Notice that they are separate. They're
Mm-hmm.
different,
The
right?
employees here would be the users of the courses.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
Correct. Usually kasi Louis, when you when you have an LMS, different accesses yan eh. So there's a learner, there's a manager. Depending on your role, you could have
Mm-hmm.
different capabilities, parang powers. Meron
Mm-hmm.
kang powers. Kung learner, sa'yo yung viewing of courses, accessing
Okay.
courses.
Mm-hmm.
Pero pag learners, pag manager ka, usually what you could do is you could enroll a team member to a course, right? Or you could post mga announcements. You know, you could also create a mini community there for your group if
Mm-hmm.
you have an
Mm-hmm.
LMS
Mm-hmm.
there. Okay, kaya
And
kaya go ahead, sorry.
I'm now thinking about this, that the managers can really get more involved in the learning experience as well,
Exactly.
provide that what ano ba yun, 20%, di ba, in the 70-20-10, the mentoring and the
Yes.
coaching. Mm-hmm. Okay,
Exactly. Yeah,
great.
they'd be given more kumbaga power
Mm-hmm.
to have a contribution to the learning of their team members there.
Yes,
So,
yes.
iwalay po yung employee orientation and then
Mm-hmm.
leaders orientation kasi they have to understand the purpose of having an LMS for
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
the managers.
Okay.
Okay, and then so that's 6 and 7, and then of course 8 is you do a go live there. So
Mm-hmm.
once orient mo na yung team members and then
Mm-hmm.
yung managers, you've done all the road show, you've communicated it well, go live na tayo.
Mm-hmm.
And then everyone will be given their access to the LMS.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
usually, and no, not usually, this is done automatically. Okay, you don't have to send an email. All the
Mm-hmm.
user credentials, announcements can be done automatically within the system.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so go live. And then my ninth milestone would be something that's recurring, which is gather feedback at any
Mm-hmm.
point. Once you go live, ask feedback, ask people for feedback when you launch courses, ask for
Mm-hmm.
feedback. Siguro
Mm-hmm.
yan yung never dapat mag-end. We
Okay.
continuously ask for feedback.
Okay. And then that's the loop that can bring you back to what part it can affect your configuration of the LMS, to a
Correct,
reconfiguration,
exactly.
content
Yeah.
migration.
That's a good point,
Okay.
Louie. Oo.
Okay.
Yeah, you can go back
Okay.
whenever. Yeah. Ito yung tinatawag na agile way of working, right?
Mm-hmm.
You seek feedback, you update, diba?
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't have to be perfect
Yes.
at the first run. Okay. And I want to
There
give
you
that,
go.
oo.
Nine Marby milestones that we need to really plan for and watch out for and continuously monitor, if we want to go to digital. What's the right term ba, Marby? Pati ako, no? Na-overwhelm ako. Digitalize, automate. What's the right term?
Ako use digital learning.
Okay.
Yeah, digital
Okay. So,
learning. E-learning as well. I think the digital world kasi it captures all the other technologies that come with digital
mhm,
learning
mhm.
there.
So
Digital
it's okay to
learning.
say digitalize. We are digitalizing the learning process.
Yes. Yeah.
Ah, okay. It's so important, no? Alam niyo naman, pag may narinig tayong mga buzzwords, yes, you may adopt the buzzwords and not really not really understand which one is really the correct one. This is really so value-adding, Marby. You were talking about the key success factors earlier: mindset, culture, the framework, and not so much focusing on the technology. If you want to talk about technology, ito na yon. Ito na yung mga 9 milestones
Yes.
and activities. You are now, you've added so much value, you've practically given guidance. No? O pag hindi pa naman natin, to our listeners in L&D, pag hindi pa naman talaga naging easy sa atin yung step-by-step process dito. Marby, which one of the 9 is really toughest or the top to as reported by L&D professionals who've actually implemented this? Kasi parang sa akin yung content migration, especially if you have a lot of existing pre-COVID content, tapos ilalagay mo dito, that's a lot of work.
Correct. I'm actually looking at the list right now, no, Louie. Nagtatry ako mag-reflect. Ano nga ba yung mas mahirap? Number one, it again depends on the organization. Kasi kung, for example, you're a company that doesn't have any processes, Louie, and then you have to draft all of the policies, baka mahirap din yun, right? So it
Number
really
two.
depends. Oo. Pero if you have, like in your example, you have a lot, right? And meron din akong kausap na HR lead na ganyan, at training lead na ganyan. Marby, dami namin lahat ng content namin, puro face-to-face training. Paano namin ito ngayon i-convert online? Lahat ng training namin for the year, pinahold. Right? So you're correct. Content migration is probably gonna be the number one if you have massive content. Kasi nga hindi siya, you have to redesign. Para ka na rin, well, probably 50% of the time you'd have to do everything.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Again.
What about the investment part?
Okay.
Because we now provided some guidance on the how-tos, and I know that our listeners can just Google specifics of this. At least they have a roadmap now, and they have 9 milestones. Baka ang maging barrier naman, Marby, would be investment. But in your experience, how does it play out?
Yeah, that's going to be a key player, Louis, no? So I guess you have to identify what's your budget gonna be like for the plan. Now,
is it really expensive to digitalize learning?
I'll probably give a ballpark figure.
Okay.
For an article. So if I may mention 3 probably tools or technologies that you'd need as an L&D leader. One is an LMS. An LMS would the cost would be sobrang varied siya, and iba-iba na rin yung business model. But the one that I know, we're paying about 800,000 to 1 million a year for a 500 employee.
Pesos, 800 to 1,000 to 1 billion.
800,000 to 1 M for a 500 employee. So that's for the entire year na ha. That's for the entire year. But if you think about it, if you're a small, organization, it's still a significant amount, right? It is a significant amount. Now, kaya
that's per
yung
head of that's per head of 2,000 pesos max, no? Per head. Okay. If it's 500. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So if you don't have budget for an amount like that, yun yung binanggit ko kanina na Moodle. Moodle is less expensive.
Okay.
You just need to find a web developer kasi Moodle practically is, I think, free. I'm not 100% sure has. So it's free.
Yes.
You just need to find a developer who could tweak it for you.
Okay.
Yun. Okay. Lalo na kung again basic lang naman yung gusto nating i-migrate, right? Or gusto nating i-automate in terms of learning. So you also need to, another tool is, so LMS, another investment would be an authoring tool. Ito yung, I'm not sure if you've heard, pero yung Articulate Storyline, Adobe Captivate. Articulate Storyline alone would cost about $1,300 per year for one person. So that's about what, 60, I guess, 60,000 pesos for a year for one person, ha? So imagine the cost of that. Now, ang lagi kong ina-advise, kung ayaw nyo pa naman gumawa ng mga highly interactive, yung may mga buttons where you click next, you can do with training videos. Yeah, I think kayo, Louie, di ba, you've been doing training videos. Pwede rin yun, right? And there's a lot of...
It's very easy to do because it's now in the power of your smartphone. Anybody can really take a video. Para kang social media influencer, kaya lang more. So is that good practice what we're doing, Marby? Videos, and then we upload it, and then our participants watch it before the virtual class?
Yes, pwede yun, Louie. It could be the learning materials could be in a video format.
Okay.
Meron kasing tinatawag na SCORM format eh. So yun yung may interactions, yung may next, or click here, click
Mhm.
there, ganyan. Yun yung SCORM. But the
Mhm.
one that
Mhm.
you are creating, guys, are learning videos. Okay, but of
Mhm.
course the script has to be, if it's a full course, kailangan yung mga instructions ba in the previous video you've learned
Mhm.
about, tapos in the next video you've learned about. So may ganun siyang processing if it's really part of a
Mhm.
course. It has to be embedded in your script. So
Mhm.
yun nga. So if you have no budget for an articulate or captivate as tools, then you could do
Mhm.
with learning videos. So like what
Mhm.
you guys are doing, smartphone, capture it, upload it in your computer. You could use
Mhm.
movie maker para may mga
Mhm.
captions, no?
Mhm.
We have to be creative, Louis, as
Correct.
L&D practitioners now, no?
Mhm.
We really have to be creative.
And not being very technical about the other platforms, could a social media page be an alternative if you really want it? If you don't want to spend, go social media, open a Facebook page, for example, or a LinkedIn page. It can be close to the community, and then just post content there. Videos could be there, and people could interact. Could that be considered as also digitalization of learning, Marby?
Ang worry ko doon, Louis, is wala kang processing of learning like in the form of assessments, right?
Mm.
Like how do you test
Mhm.
the knowledge?
Okay.
Diba? According to Robert Gagne's 5-9 models of instruction, there has to be, feedback, it should be
Mhm.
assessment.
I
So
saw
yung
that in your post recently. Those five. Mhm.
correct. So it could be in terms of, I guess, kung sa Bloom's taxonomy, if it's just, knowing, remembering. Pero again,
Mhm.
we don't have, you are not able to test knowledge eh.
Okay. Okay.
So, ang pwede doon, Louis, is you do it manually. So you post
Mhm.
videos, right? It's
Mhm.
a
Mhm.
closed community. For example, you have
Mhm.
10 participants. And
Yeah.
then you create tests via Google Forms
Okay.
or Microsoft Forms. Those are free.
Mhm.
Pwede rin.
Mhm.
But I guess the tracking again is still manual. But if you
Mhm.
really don't
Okay.
have any budget, go for it.
Mhm.
Try it out if
Mhm.
it's working for you. Para rin tong prototyping ng LMS. Pwede din.
Correct.
Para may
Yeah.
business case ka for when you need to
Mhm.
get budget na for a real LMS. Pwede yun.
Mhm.
That's a
Mhm.
good that is a good idea.
And I can imagine that if a company can really invest in that 800,000 to 1 million per year for 500 employees, good. But if not, sabi mo nga, kailangan, we need to be innovative, we need to be creative, we need to work with
Yes.
what we have. So we're thinking about that page in social media as a course distribution platform, but you're correct, no processing of learning. So you will have to make do with different tools. Perhaps you can work with
Yes.
4, 5 different tools if you can't have an
Yes.
end-to-end LMS.
Correct.
Wow.
Correct.
Sobrang ano, I'm personally excited with the lessons here. Not for to our listeners, I'm also benefiting from this because once again, the last 5 months have been really crazy. We are doing our own self-study. And perhaps you can consider this, Marby, as an agile culture. Whatever we chance upon, in-experiment ka agad namin. Okay,
Yeah,
subukan natin to. Okay, we're making decisions quickly. Let's choose one because we'll never know until we try
that's
it.
the way
And
to
then we
go,
just improve
Louie.
and tweak along the way. Oh, ayan,
Correct.
guys. To our L&D listeners in this episode number 10, Marby has given 10 and has given we're now going down to the tactics of executing it, making choices, even the level of investment. My last question, Marby, going back to the strategic one, or let's talk about the L&D professional at the middle, yes, who would be at the forefront of the workforce saying learning should not be on a lockdown, even if we are in work from home and you're forced to do something. What's your advice so that they can influence, get buy-in, considering that there's investment? What is there a pitch? Is there an approach? What behavior should L&D managers or directors do so that they can really win? Our title is Make Digital Learning Win. So that they can win the support of top management.
Yeah. Speak their language. That's probably my tip. Speak their
Mm-hmm.
language. What are their pain points in terms of,
Okay.
their day-to-day job as leaders?
Mm-hmm.
Is it
Mm-hmm.
improving performance? Like in our roadshows, we talked about how you as a leader could use this to improve the performance of your team member who hasn't been performing for, let's say, 2 months, not meeting quality score. Right? You
Mm-hmm.
have to speak their language. Otherwise, it's just another L&D initiative.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You
Mm-hmm.
have to speak, and you have to craft your message na talagang ma-answer yung needs ng leaders
Mm-hmm.
natin and the
Mm-hmm.
pain needs of the business.
And of course, there could be a lot of pains in the
Yes.
last 5 months that they can really capitalize on. Yes,
Correct.
at a time when sales are down, yes, and perhaps
Yes.
people are having difficulty coping, they're struggling with this work at home setup. They can use this as
Exactly.
drivers, yes.
Yes, yes. Right?
Mm-hmm.
And you don't see your team member every day, right? So how do you ensure that he or she is continuously learning? Why don't we
Mm-hmm.
use the LMS to see
Mm-hmm.
if they're if if they're learning, we could track it there, right?
Mm-hmm.
If the
Mm-hmm.
contents are available there. So
Mm-hmm.
really, it should be sold as a tool for leaders. I think that's also
Mm-hmm.
one what I want to highlight. An LMS or the digital learning technology is not just a functional thing. It's not an L&D thing. It's not an L&D tool. It's not an
Mm-hmm.
L&D technology. It's a tool for leaders. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Because obviously we're here as L&D practitioners because we want to help our leaders bring their
Mm-hmm.
teams to higher performance. So that's how we
Mm-hmm.
want to package it.
Wow. Take a look at that. Another takeaway. I'm blown by it. And LMS is not just an L&D thing. It is a leadership tool so we can manage our people well and then achieve the results and at the same time build better relationship in an engaged workforce.
Yes.
Yeah. Wow. There's so many things and I'm sure that our listeners have questions and if they're interested to get in touch with you, Marby, how could they best get in touch with you for some more questions or let's say some coaching? What's the best way to connect with you?
Sure. They can look me up in LinkedIn. Yeah, we can build the connection via LinkedIn, or you could also
Mm-hmm.
send me an email. It's just my name, marby.tabungar@gmail.com.
Mm-hmm. Email Marby or Marby is also very active in LinkedIn community. Marby, it's been a pleasure. Personally, it's been a pleasure. You've seen our forced digital acceleration. And I was telling you earlier, just like maybe other companies, other training vendors as well, this really hit us hard, just like other industries. And to each his own, you really have to focus on how do we survive either your independent training practice or your small training consulting firm. Yes, you've really guided us, and I'm sure that once again, our L&D professionals already got a lot from those 9. Let me call it Marby's milestones. Marby's milestones in digital learning. Huh? Thank you. We're really privileged to have you here, Marby. And
Right. Louis, sorry, before we
yes,
end, just I wanna
go,
shamelessly plug. Is it okay if I plug
please,
the designing e-learning courses from the Philippine Society for Talent Development?
go
So
ahead, please.
if there are L&D practitioners, for sure there are that are listening here, and you wanna improve your design skills this
Mhm,
time in e-learning, PSTD is offering a course for that.
mhm.
So just look it up via Facebook, or visit pstd.org to know more about the course.
And
And
you should definitely attend that course because that's part of content migration, Marby, if I'm not mistaken,
yes,
in
that's
your
correct.
milestones. Go ahead,
Yes.
there's still one more.
No, I'm good, Louis. Thank you.
Okay.
Just want to say it's my pleasure to be here and be able to share what I know, my
Okay.
experience, right? And hopefully that will guide our
Y-
other
you've
practitioners as
you've
well.
been selflessly and really generously sharing a lot of these. I would see you in PSTD and you post a lot as well. Uh, LND professionals who are listening, please connect with Marby, whether you have a question or not. Connect with her in LinkedIn because she would regularly post value adding content that can reinforce the how to's in the 9 Marby milestones.
Morby milestone. Okay.
Marby, it's been indeed a pleasure to have you here. What value adding specific practical tips you provided in this episode. Okay. Marby, thank you for guesting in Hello World.
All right. Thank you, Louis. All
Ready
right.
when
Thank you,
you're
Louis.
ready.
And thank you to our listeners and the LJMB. This is Marby Tabungar. Hello, world.
This is Louis Banta of LJMB. Thank you for watching my video. To watch more videos like this, click subscribe and hit the bell icon below. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, comment down below, and share it to others.